So, let me get you up to speed. You're about to graduate, and your childhood friends have invited you out for one last trip. They're a little on the weird side, so their idea of a girls' night out is to explore an abandoned film studio, conveniently located just underneath the school building. Unable to decline because of the plot, you find yourself in a situation inspired by the golden age of PS2 survival horror. But in this game, the fixed camera is not your enemy, but your weapon. This is
Studio System.
Friday, 10:30 a.m. You get a text from a friend asking you to meet them at the school clubroom. It's important. You're about to graduate, so you really can't be asked to go. You would really prefer to go back to bed, but the plot beckons you, and you use your newfound tank controls to make your way out of the house. But first,
Hello, let me go.
you need to find the
Let me go,
stairs.
I wish to leave. What's the button to leave?
Any second now?
Let me go.
Any second now?
Please free me from this place. I want to go to school. Please let me go to school.
It really took me a long time, didn't it?
Let me go.
Any second now? Lad, they're over there!
If there was a tutorial, I didn't
Lad!
read it.
They're over there!
Oh, are these stairs? Oh.
They were indeed stairs.
Oh, well, that's not ominous in the least.
But before we check out the scary stuff, let's have a chat. How are you, lads? My name is Blairlex, and welcome to my show. I've been a huge fan of the survival horror genre for absolutely ages. Like, I've been obsessed with them since I was like a little fella. Like, even smaller than you're thinking. My first experience with a horror game was the original Doom for the PlayStation 1. I know it's a bit silly to think of Doom to be a horror game nowadays, but back then, it was really spooky. The graphics at the time were so realistic to my little baby brain that it scared the absolute life out of me. And I was not even playing it. My dad would always be in the controller seat, and I would be behind the couch, playing with toy guns in Imagination Land, fighting the demons in my head. But even though I had the power of not looking at the screen when things got scary, the sounds alone were enough to give me nightmares.
When the dead kill me, John Romero.
So it would take me a bit longer before I jumped onto the DualShock. But once the PlayStation 2 came out, and I got my hands on the PlayStation 2 official magazine, which included a demo disc featuring a game franchise that would cement my obsession for the tank controls genre forever. Did it ruin me? Maybe. Like, yeah, it definitely did a bit of damage. So, where was I? Oh yeah. Since I'm an authority figure on the subject, where does Studio System Guardian Angel sit in the world of survival horror? Personally, I think it sits very well, and loudly makes its case that it deserves to be there. Studio System works with an ambitious mechanic, where the static camera is controlled by the player, giving the freedom to zoop and zap around corners, which adds to the already creepy atmosphere. Every room I entered, I'd be looking for bad dudes, but the developers were also really conservative with their enemy placement, which put me on edge throughout the game. Every time I was expecting a jump scare or a creepy moment, I just end up scaring myself like an idiot at nothing, which left me with a false sense of security, so when something did happen, it hit me so much more.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that scared me. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. Oh my god.
Another one of the game's main mechanics is that you can interact with every object with a bloody red eye painted on it. You can use this to solve puzzles and to pick up objects to yoink at the enemy. While this mechanic is a bit jank and does not always work the way you want it to, its jankiness only added to my fun because some of the platforming puzzles were definitely not supposed to be solved the way that I did it. But I always found myself asking, yo, this would be funny if this works. And the game just kinda let me do it, and most of the time, it worked. The rest of combat is just your average survival horror fare. Whack 'em with a bat or shoot 'em with your camera about 2 or 3 times and they go down. But it's generally more advised to avoid combat and conserve your resources for bosses and more claustrophobic rooms. There's not an incredible amount of weapon variety in the game. You really only have 2 weapons. Well, 3, I guess, if you count your force powers, but that's more of a situational weapon for situational situations. In terms of how comparable this game is to other games of the genre, I feel personally it hits more at home with a mix of Silent Hill and Fatal Frame, rather than Resident Evil, for example. Though the game does feel simplistic on the combat side of things, I chop that up to the game just being indie, and the focus more being on other areas. Areas which I feel are the true highlight of the game, and what drew me towards buying the game in the first place. And that is... Indie games have a magical power, the freedom to just do whatever they want when it comes to their art style. While AAA games, on the other hand, tend to be stuck with the limitations of the hyper-realistic or super marketable cartoony graphics and don't really have the flexibility for anything in between. And is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I love these art styles, and seeing how the tech is evolving is incredibly exciting. You have an idea of how every game by big developers is going to look. AAA has a style, and it's polished, it's trendy, but it's something we've seen before. Now, I'm not trying to say that Studio System is rugged in comparison. That's not the point I'm getting at. It's rough around the edges, that's for sure, but it takes advantage of that and greatly uses it to its strength rather than its weakness to make an incredibly appealing art style that gives me a sense of nostalgia of a bygone era. Its use of low-poly 3D character designs, 2D anime sprites, repeating patterns, and geometrical level design puts a heavy emphasis on its surreal, other-dimensional atmosphere. And with its minimalistic approach to its backgrounds, it's not afraid to spoil you with its use of high-contrast color palettes for that little bit of extra spice. It's a very artsy game where the symbolism is heavy. It feels like a mix between the RPG Maker games of old and PS1 classics in a way. Also, in another weird way, the art direction also reminds me of the anime Monogatari. They both make use of extreme camera angles and perspective tricks and abstract imagery. I don't think the dev meant for the similarities, but it's something that jumped out at me and I think it's really cool. The art style is incredibly different, and that's insanely appealing to me. I love seeing the risks people take with different art styles. And in this case, I think it really worked out.
Outside the studio.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Yeah man, I think that's the take, but could we just get one more of those for 60?
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Perfect. This video is brought to you by Boys on Internet, a gaming-focused YouTube channel that streams a variety of slop every Thursday evening. So if you'd like to see more of me and a few other sexy lads while you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you pop over to the second channel. Let's rewind to a tiny bit earlier, back when we were trying to go down the stairs. Once you and the girls find yourself at the school, you have a little banter. What? 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 What did she mean by that? What did she mean? Then you get the sit rep of why your weird friends forced you to come to school on a day when the sun was banished.
Give us back the fucking sun!
The girls bring you down into the basement, where you find yourself the magic Q button that lets you use all your force powers and mind gun. which you use very quickly to take out the Shadow Man, who's in the place your friends should have been. You do a little bit of jogging after the thrill of the kill, and then reconvene with the women, who ask, "Oi! Why did you leave me with the Shadow Man? Like, what was the point of that, like?" But there must have been a bit of a cold chill in the air, because we all get a nosebleed at around the same time, and the main character, being a bit squeamish, faints. But then wakes up to find herself in the one place more awkward for a woman than waking up in Silent Hill, the anime club. But lucky enough, she's on her own, so she doesn't have to get involved in a hypothetical question like,
Fellas, was school days really that bad, or was it just ahead of it?
Stick to the damn script and stop with the tangents, or I swear to God.
So, you wake up in the second most awkward place for a woman, anime Silent Hill. Okay, well, this is really unsettling. You'll be shown one more screen asking you to take a special power in the form of a pact. Pact 1 is the Kill Pact, which is like the genocide run in Undertale. The middle pact is the one I chose, and for lack of a better word, it's basically the Fatal Frame Pact. Take pictures of the bad dudes, and it will say, "Perfect shot!" And that's fairly it. The third pact is the Friendship Pact, where you'll find red phones around the levels, where people will spill the tea about the plot. After picking your poison, from here on out, you will mainly be on your own solving puzzles, and figuring out where the girls be at, so you can plan your escape from this spooky underground film studio dimension. While the story can be a bit confusing at times, I think it's a good setup for what's to come, and I very much enjoyed its quirky nature. Though there is points in the writing where some of the dialogue is a little strange, and I'm not too sure if it's a mistranslation thing or me reading it wrong because I'm a little dyslexic. Like this, for example. There's a point in the game where we are introduced to a character named Wendigo, and Becky, our main woman, is not sure if they should trust this person. She's a bit hesitant to give her full name, and even reiterates in her head that she's not going to, because she's getting some bad vibes. But then she proceeds to give her full name anyway. Like, not even her nickname, and it took me out for a bit. But it made me laugh more than anything, so I'm giving it a pass. The dev has brought up on Twitter that a lot of this stuff is being fixed in patches, so the spelling stuff is probably already fixed by the time you will pick up the game anyway. Another thing I will admit though about the story is the ending I got was a bit confusing. You can hear my reaction now. What? So... Oh, did I just get, like, the worst ending? Is that what happened? Remember the pack system I brought up earlier? I forgot all about it, which led me to getting the bad end. And if you're like me and tend to play through games once due to time constraints, ending R is definitely the most disappointing ending you can get. I usually love getting the bad end in games, as they can truly make you feel like you messed up, but this one's not incredibly fulfilling, as it kinda just ends abruptly and leaves nearly every question unanswered. But luckily, the other endings, on the other hand, are a lot of fun and leave a satisfactory end to the story that brings a nice conclusion to the mystery. If you have the time to play through the game multiple times, there's a lot of fun to be had getting each of the 4 endings. But if you're a one-run Andy like me, who looks up the other endings when he's finished, on your first playthrough, make sure you keep an eye on the condition of whatever pact you chose, to avoid the bad end. The game doesn't really have a traditional soundtrack in the sense. It's more atmospheric, incorporating some indie solo guitar or pulsing dark moody synths that are just there to set the mood rather than for you to bust a move. But there is some really nice tracks on the playlist that I could see myself putting on in the background while I'm doing something else. Here, have a listen. At the time of writing this, I couldn't find the soundtrack anywhere on YouTube, or even being sold on the Steam page, so I had to go into the files of the game itself and drag these tracks out for the video. I really like these tunes, so I'd like to see the dev upload them somewhere for people to hear outside the game. Like, this one in particular is really special to me. It's only like a 40-second loop at the end of the game, but I just really like it. The sound design, though, is a little rough sometimes, as there's not an incredible amount of sounds to work with. so you'll be hearing a lot of the same sounds over and over again. When you run into an enemy, for example, there's a siren sound that plays. And that can be a bit draining after a while, especially when there's multiple enemies chasing you. But it's something you can get over by giving the enemy a good slap. But even though I have that critique, every other sound has its place, and it works absolutely fine for what the game's trying to do. Though, one of my personal pet peeves was the Undertale Banjo-Kazooie sounds when people are talking. There's not enough variation in the audio file, and sometimes it sounds like the audio file clicks when it replays, and that can get a bit jarring at times. Now, this is definitely a me problem. I don't really like this in any game, and you might have no problem with it at all. The way I prefer it to be done is having partial voice acting. Have maybe a few sounds for each emotion, like, for a neutral line, and a for real? For real? For real? For real? For real? For an excited line. You get what I mean, it's done in other games. But the characters don't talk to each other that much, so it's a very minor blight on my end.
Final thoughts!
Overall, Studio System Guardian Angel is a love letter to classic survival horror. From its striking art direction to its innovative take on fixed camera mechanics, it offers a nostalgic yet fresh experience for fans of the genre. Sure, it has its rough edges, but I believe that's a part of its charm. If you're a fan of eerie atmospheres, experimental mechanics, and a bit of that indie jank that we all know and love, this is definitely a game you should check out.
Highly recommend!
I saw on social media that the process of making this game was a bit rough on you. Putting any art piece out into the world is scary. You never know what people are going to say, think, or feel. Releasing a game is a huge undertaking, and that comes with its own stresses. And not everyone will understand the work that goes into releasing a project. While the player played a 6-hour game, you put more than hundreds of hours into making it. Over on Twitter, you said you failed. And that broke my heart because in my eyes, you didn't. You set out to make a game, you put your heart and soul into it, and finished that bad boy. You more than succeeded and made something really special that people are loving. You don't have to take my word for it, the positive reviews speak for themselves. I understand you can't help how you feel at the end of the day. But I see the work you've done, and I'm really glad I got to play your game. It was a lot of fun. I know you said you would never make another game, but if you ever decide to get back up on the saddle, I'll be the first one in line to cheer you on. Cheers. How are you lads? It's me, Blairlex. Thank you for watching my video. This one was a hella fun one to make, and a really ambitious style for video for me to take on. I wanted to take on a slightly more serious review style than what I would normally do, and I think I did okay. If you agree, give us a sub, or better yet, buy Studio System on Steam. I really enjoy making these videos, and I know this one took a lot longer than the last one. I'll try my best to pump them out quicker next time, but no promises. Maybe check out the Rabbit and Steel video while you wait. Worked my balls off on that one. Also, thanks again for Ibby the Ibster on Blue Sky for the thumbnail art. You did a kick-ass job. Check them out. And I guess that's enough yapping out of me. Thanks again for watching, gang, and look forward to the next big video. You're always welcome at my town. Goodbye.
Stick to the goddamn script and stop going on tangents, or Bob won't be the only one you call uncle. What I think you need to do, Mr. Lex, is stick to the damn script and stop going on tangents, or we're gonna have problems, sunshine.
Oh, Blair, would you cop on and just stick to the script? Otherwise, I'll be tickling your toes with a feather or something.